Hello, welcome to today's reflection. Today's reflection is for Good Friday, today being Good Friday. Traditionally, if you went to church on Good Friday, you would hear chapters 18 and 19 of John's Gospel read through. It's quite unusual when hearing the scripture read in church to hear such a large portion of scripture read at the same time. So I'm going to challenge you that if you are able to perhaps find a quiet spot, maybe a chair that's sat somewhere in the sunshine or perhaps out in the garden, somewhere where you won't be disturbed, where you can spend a few moments sitting and praying as you read the Gospel and allow God to speak to you through the words there. Today I'm going to read just a small section of John's Gospel. I'm going to read John 19, starting partway through verse 25. This is when Jesus is hanging on the cross. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his own home. After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, in order to fulfill the scripture, "I am thirsty." A jar of sour wine was standing there, so they put a sponge full of the wine on the branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. And as I was thinking about this earlier this morning, it was the words, "it is finished," that really struck me. It is finished rarely means that something has come to an end and nothing new starts to happen. We often have experiences where we think, we wish that something would finish, or we dread something finishing, but always there's something else that happens. We don't live our lives in a vacuum. Things don't finish and then nothing new starts in its place, or something starts as a result of one thing finishing. And it's true also for this in scripture here. When Jesus says it is finished, it's not clear quite what he's saying is finished, that his life is finished, that his role on earth is finished, that he's finished doing what God has sent him to do. But what we do know is that this finishing on Good Friday is just the very beginning of something new that's about to happen. And as we're going through this current lockdown period, often I've heard people say, well, once this is all over, once this is finished, and I wonder what new things will be growing and springing up as a result of our confinement, how life will look, how different things will be. One thing finishing does not necessarily mean that something new and exciting will not start and spring up in its place. Just like Jesus' death and his announcement that it is finished did not mean the end, but in fact it was an exciting new beginning. So I pray for you all as we enter into this day of sadness and this day of reflection, which Good Friday often is, that it will be a time where we're able to hold on to things and to say it is finished of certain things in our lives, but also to look prayerfully and expectantly towards God to see what new beginnings will be growing